Welcome to the Movies to Watch Before You Die podcast. We have a special guest today for what is going to be our first.
Is Gab.
I was going to get there,
I'm Gab.
You didn't get there in time. I always start by saying my name. Don't throw off my rhythm, Dylan. I'm very sensitive to these things.
Welcome to the Gabs to listen to before you intro.
It's the hierarchy. It goes Dylan, guest, then Gab. That's not true at all. That's not true.
Oh, my God. Should I start over?
No,
never.
It's too late.
Oh, terrible. Okay. So we are going to be talking about a movie that our guest, James Stricker from the Watchtower Database,
I've got the soundboard
ready. He has nominated 2 movies, which is probably a thing that in terms of preparation, we will never do again.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I'm sorry about that.
So many facts were prepared. So many things watched in advance.
Wow.
Gab, why don't you tell the people why they're listening to us, and then we can get into these 2 movies.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think most importantly, they're probably listening because James is here, podcast host extraordinaire.
James
someone
Cameron,
with a lot
director of Aliens. I stole your joke.
Right. You did. It's okay. It's all right. That was on my list for Act 2, but it's fine. We'll revisit.
We can pretend I didn't say it. You can do it again. Yeah.
I appreciate that. But no, I mean, James, you host, from what I understand, the Jump on the Batwagon podcast.
You got it.
Correct?
Yeah.
Amazing.
I'm so proud of her.
Thank you. I did it. You guys, all right. Have a good day. But I do want to know, before I get into why people are listening to us, this is a question that I ask everybody. It's something that's very important to me for absolutely no reason. And the question is, of all the live action Batmen, which actor do you think is the real Batman? Like, when you think Batman live action, who do you think of?
Well, this is the problem, because I do get asked this a lot, and I have such a lower opinion, like a lesser thought out opinion about the live action one than I do the animated one, because as Dylan will attest, Batman Mask the Phantasm, wonderful movie. I don't know anybody who dislikes it, but
only an idiot.
But I didn't say that. That was Dylan. I only called Dylan an idiot on voice messages. That was also my favorite part about this, by the way, was my introduction to Gab. It's just me being a complete jackass and you going, the balls on this guy, as you listen to the voice. Like, oh yeah, whoops, Gab doesn't know me. I should probably. But I don't know. Michael Keaton has some good aspects, but there's also a lot of like weird, goofy Tim Burton-ness to those movies that I'm not a huge fan of. Christian Bale is in the movies again, or it's the opposite with him, where like I don't really love him as Batman, but I really like the movies. I don't really have a good answer to this. I'm sorry. I think George Clooney looks the most like what I expect Batman would look like in real life, but not while he's just Bruce Wayne. when he's in Batman with his George Clooney chin, I think it works pretty well.
Can I just say, what a cowardly answer that is, where he basically took like 60% of the live action Batman. It was like, they're all great in their own unique and special way.
Yeah, wow. But George Clooney.
Wow. Okay.
But Val Kilmer, he must hate.
Oh, he just slips my mind because he was boring. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess I have least favorites more than I do favorites. Yeah.
That's fair.
Live action did heavy lifting in that question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's because I knew what he was going to say if I didn't say live action, because he was going to say exactly what you said, Dylan. But anyway, so you are listening to us more than likely because you know, love, respect, listen to James. However, we're here
put yourself down like this. I listen to this podcast, okay?
Appreciate
it's
it.
only because
Very
we have very much advertised ourselves to only his audience.
I suppose. True. Shout out Scotty Cameron. Hey, how's it going?
Scotty Cameron, our number one listener and contributor. We are experienced in this podcasting thing at this point. We watch movies, we talk about movies, we debate movies, and we're about to do it again today. So here we go.
All right, and now I'm going to ask 2 important questions because this is a double feature. Obviously, we're talking about 1979 Alien, 1986 Aliens, and I'm going to go first to Gab. Tell me, what is the movie Alien about?
What's this all been about? What am I working toward?
You think you know everything about me, don't you?
I dive at your bottom. I bloody well ought to.
Alien is about a space crew that is forced to land on a planet after hearing a signal from a derelict ship. And they find a species.
Derelict.
They love the word derelict.
Derelict.
They said that from
pronounced
a
Dylan
Zoolander
Pollock.
reference.
Yeah, very deep cut. They stumble across a species via their eggs. Somebody essentially becomes infected by the species, and then the alien is on the ship, and then it threatens, it kills them all. That took a left turn. I'm
The
sorry.
very, very truncated. Yes, but yeah.
Okay. Now, because we're just meshing these two together, I'm like, do I just go straight to James for aliens, or do I read the IMDb summary first?
No. Go straight to James.
Oh, I was
James.
just the opposite, but yeah, sure. I'll take it.
James,
I'll
it's
take
too
the
late.
ball.
Gab answered
Yeah.
first. What is 1986's Aliens about?
So the first one, Alien, ends with her killing the alien and her being Sigourney Weaver, the character of Sigourney Weaver, and she is cryogenically
Sigourney
frozen.
Weaver is my favorite character from Alien.
Yes, exactly. Me too. And Goosebumps, Ghostbusters, is what I was trying to say. She
Goosebusters.
Goosebusters. She's frozen on the little derelict spacecraft. I don't know if that's the correct use of derelict, but we're going with it.
Derelict.
Sorry. Is this a spaceship for ants? He says. And she's floating around. She doesn't know how long it's going to be till she wakes up, but it turns out to be, what was it, 57 years, something like that. And the company, Wayland Yutani, which I don't know if they actually say the name of the company in this movie, but I know too much about alien lore, so I'm going to say it. And they're like, hey, welcome back. Everyone you know is probably dead. And what happened? And she's like, oh, let me tell you. She tells them the plot synopsis of Alien. And they're like, we don't believe you. You're an idiot. That couldn't possibly have happened. And she's like, you told us to do it. And they're like, we don't know what you're talking about. Get out of my face. And then immediately the military is like, we lost contact with the people on the planet that you described. You're probably right. Come with us. We're going to kill all the aliens. And then to do this in a Gab-like fashion, they go to the planet and they kill all the aliens.
Yep.
Great summations on both parts. Let's see if it matches up with IMDb says. I wonder if either
it's
one
exactly
will.
the same. Yeah.
So, the plot synopsis for Alien. The crew of a commercial spacecraft encounters a deadly life form after investigating an unknown transmission.
Mm-hmm.
If only they had thrown derelict in there.
Only.
All right. Should we go over the taglines for Alien?
I know one of
Sure.
them.
We all should know one of them. And Gab, if you don't like the tagline for this movie, you're gonna just be wrong.
Okay.
One of the most famous taglines ever: in space, no one can hear you scream,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
which is chef's kiss, perfection.
Mhm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the scariest things come from within.
Mm.
It's a little
kinda
on
feel
the
like that could
nose
also-
for me.
Wait, I kind of feel like that could be a great tagline for either a romantic comedy
I was just gonna say, yeah.
or for Taco Bell.
I was gonna say it sounds like a
Yeah.
weird, like Hallmark Christmas movies tagline or something. Like it could.
Yeah.
I didn't know I could
definitely-
feel these feelings.
Yeah,
The scariest thing,
exactly.
it's coming from within me. It's Alien, the eighth passenger.
Mm. Well, that it implies that you know that there are 7 characters, and then I also had to just count them in my head. So
Does that count the cat?
that's true.
Jonesy.
Yeah.
Which it turns out he is an employee there for morale. I feel like I saw that during my research and I was like, that's adorable.
Interesting. I love that.
like a whatchamacallit, something animal.
like a therapy animal.
Yeah,
emotional
yeah,
support
yeah.
animal.
Emotional
He-
support. Yeah,
Get a
that's
job.
Sally
Yeah.
is the emotional support animal of this
I
podcast.
had an orange cat for a long time that is still my
Aw.
picture on my phone, and whenever Jonesy is a special boy, girl, I don't remember. I think girl.
Yeah.
I think girl. I think I don't know. Cat.
So I think that tagline, it's Alien the Eighth Passenger, also comes from in foreign countries. This movie was often called The Eighth Passenger, where like there's an eighth
Oh.
passenger or something like that.
Interesting.
And the last tagline, a word of warning, ... which definitely feels like the worst one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The eighth passenger one wouldn't work very well for the eighth passenger versus Predator. I don't think that would come off as really get people.
That
in
would
their
not be as
seats.
Yeah.
They'd be counting all the other characters and think there's more than 7 of them.
I mean, I like it on its own because it's a little, mysterious and whatever. And it's kind of like, I've always had a sort of a problem that they mention in Aliens that they're called a xenomorph. And then that's just like the accepted name of them in every other piece of media. But like they don't have a name for it in the first one, obviously. And then just calling it an alien is very vague. But if the eighth passenger's door does sort of give me ooh, what does that mean?
Oh, James, this falls right into one of my facts. You've activated my trap.
Oh, no. I didn't mean to, Gab. I'm so sorry.
It was called an alien and an organism in the first film. It has also been referred to as creature, serpent, beast, dragon, monster, nasty, or simply a thing. The term xenomorph comes from the Greek xeno, which translates as either other or strange, and morph, which denotes shape, and is first used by the character Lieutenant Gorman in Aliens. But basically, it just means it's like a strange blob thing.
It sounds really cool, though.
Yeah, it sounds cool. It has now only applied to, I feel like, this alien, and it really technically doesn't specifically denote it. Now let's get to Aliens. The plot synopsis from IMDb. Decades after surviving the Nostromo incident, Ellen Ripley is sent out to reestablish contact with a terraforming colony, but finds herself battling the alien queen and her offspring.
Oh.
Which I feel like it's weird that it doesn't mention at all that like there's Marines there or anything like that. But
yeah, it's just her. Just some lady going to the battle the alien queen. Well, she does do
1v1.
that. She does do that. Yeah.
The taglines, I mean, I feel like there's one here that I do really like. Here's the first one. This time, there's more.
I was hoping in space no one can hear you scream again.
I kind of
still can't hear you.
Yeah.
What's that? No, it's simultaneously like a really lazy tagline, but it just fucking works because what is Aliens? But this time there's more.
Yeah.
I mean,
the second one, which feels like it's lazy. This time it's war.
Does that imply that you know the other tagline and this is a riff on it? Otherwise, it's not as good. I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I will say, when I saw both of them together, I was like, "What? Why?" There are some places in the universe you don't go alone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but I don't feel like I mean, I guess she does go alone at some point, but.
And last one here. Somewhere in deepest space, all hell is breaking loose. That's okay.
That also doesn't feel like all hell. It feels like a very small slice of hell.
Yeah. Also,
well, I don't think the tagline, somewhere in deepest space, a little piece of hell is coming back.
Yeah, but
a little
it could.
pizza.
There's a little colony of hell with your name on it, Ricky.
That's better, yeah. I like the ones that just imply the tagline should be, there are no Marines in this movie. It's just some lady. Yeah.
It's Aliens, the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th passengers.
Yeah, just count as many as possible, yeah.
All right, so I don't know if we want to do more description of what these two movies are or if it'll come about in the facts, but I feel like if we do want to just like sort of give a little bit more spoilers here.
Mm-hmm.
Alien crew, there's an alien. Like, I feel like I'm about to give less spoilers because I'm trying to fucking race through it.
Yeah,
but
move fast.
Alien, there's like 7 people because it's the 8th passenger, and the 8th passenger kills the other passengers until he's the 2nd passenger, and then he's not a passenger anymore. Aliens, Ripley, they find her and they're like, "Hey, you're alive," and she's like, "Well, I'm not doing that shit again." And then they're like, "You want to do it again?" And she's like, "Okay."
I keep having nightmares. I guess I'll do it. Yeah.
I will say, well, it's an opinion. I'll get to it in a second.
Yeah,
don't get to it.
It's hard not to. Yeah.
This is literal time. Okay. Yeah, Ripley goes with Marines. The Marines think it's going to be easy. It's not easy. A bunch of them die. They find a little girl. And then we find out, which I didn't realize how much at the end we find out that there is a queen alien, and Ripley's got to beat the piss out of that queen alien.
You didn't remember the alien queen?
I remember the alien queen. I thought it came about way earlier in the movie.
Oh, no. That's the final
alien
boss
queen
battle.
That took the elevator.
Yes.
Not the stairs.
Yes.
Well, I did write down like she takes the elevator, but at the same time,
she's smart. She's wicked smart.
Well, I do love. Okay, we're getting to opinion time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Opinion time. 3, 2, 1, go.
In this critic's opinion,
that's just like your opinion, man.
Well, I have a right to my opinion, and my opinion is you have no right to your opinion.
Soundbite. Opinion sounds.
So in Aliens, to rush to the end of the second movie, in Aliens, there's a great moment where like two of what we'll just refer to them as xenomorphs are going towards Ripley, and the Queen's like, nah, back off, y'all, back off. Like, she's just like, hold up, she got that gun.
I
Don't do
got
nothing
this.
stupid.
Yeah.
I will say, rewatching both of these movies, I think I'd only seen Alien once before, and I didn't realize that by far the best character in that movie, it's not Ripley, it's not Dallas, it is fucking Parker. Parker's the goddamn man in that movie.
Yeah.
He is only relatable throughout that entire movie. And then he gets hit by Ash with the worst titty twister I've ever seen.
I know. What in the world is like that scene? And okay, I guess I would love, as someone that these movies are a big part of my, like, I was trying to think of why I like them so much, as like, or why they like mean so much to me or whatever, or like why I'm like, I want to come on here to talk about this specifically or whatever. Because Dylan had invited me to talk about Mask of the Phantasm, and I think I said like, yeah, but I talk about that all the time. Like, I want to talk about something else that I like that's not the DCAU. And I think like a big part of it, I think for me, is that like, because of how practical everything in both of these is, like, there's a couple of shots of spaceships that are clearly like matte, cut out, green screen, whatever you want to call it, into space or whatever. But most of the stuff is either like that whole scene of the helicopter-y ship crashing is like a rear projection, like there's a screen behind them projecting the image while they're all acting in front of it. All the aliens are practical, everything's a puppet or a animatronic or a guy in a suit and all this stuff. And I think it just gave me like a sense of wonder as a kid of like, this is what's possible that you can do with a big budget on a movie, is like, this is all this stuff is really happening or whatever, and so I'm curious to know, like, listening to this podcast a lot and hearing the highs and lows of, Gab loving Cat in the Hat because it meant so much to her as a kid, while I'm listening to it going, I understand that feeling, but I also hate Cat in the Hat. I don't know. I don't know if I can get on board with this. I want to know like what your takeaway was for either of these, because they're two very different types of movies with the same characters, essentially. Whether you really dug one or the other or both or neither, I don't know.
Well, let's hear some opinions from you, Gab, who has not seen either of these before.
Yeah. So, I have so many things to say, but I'll start with the sort of big revelation that I had, which is that growing up, my family went to Disney like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
So not that we were like Disney people. Like, I always want to preface, like, everyone is normal, but we just happen to go.
That's a
times.
good amount of going that doesn't make me go, oh, why so many times?
Yes, thank you. Very, very safe amount of time.
Yes,
but
respectable amount.
My favorite part of Disney is their what used to be called MGM. I think now it's called Hollywood Studios, but it's like the movie sort of theme park. And they have tons of rides about different movies and stuff like that. But my favorite one was the Great American Movie Ride, where you kind of like went through all these different movie scenes. And there's an Indiana Jones scene, and there's this and that and whatever, whatever. And then
you go into the spooky
Alien.
Hallway.
And you're on the Nostromo. And you see the alien come down from the ceiling. And, I sort of like right before we watched this movie, I was like, oh my God, I feel like I've been in
I've experienced this.
Yeah. So that was kind of cool, because that's like, as a kid, it was like kind of scary and exciting. And like, you see the alien, you're like, oh my God, it's so scary.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool. And then watching it, I think I was very excited, because I recognized, based on the year that Alien came out, and also just the visuals of the film, that it was going to be very similar to The Thing, which I watched, did not really care for, but didn't really understand the implications. Shut up, Dylan.
It's still some bullshit.
Relax.
I won't. This isn't a podcast about The Thing.
It's not.
It could be. You could do only The Thing.
But it did kind of make me say, like, oh wow, look, it's very exciting. I enjoy the fact that this is all very practical. I think as far as Alien, I felt like if the movie had ended when she got into the getaway ship and was safe, I'd have been like, wow, what an awesome movie. But then the alien is still there. And it's like, okay, we got to do this one more time. And I appreciate it now that I've seen sort of the continuation and I understand, okay, like, you know, we've got to like give it a little bit more of a punch. It can't just be easy. But sending it out of the air duct felt like all the practical effects that were like kind of dazzling given the time went out the window because it was just a bad shot.
It's just a big rubber guy in a rubber suit on a string or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's one other thing in Alien that looks terrible.
I think I probably know what you're talking about.
Oh, yes.
Is it Guy's head on a table?
It is absolutely Ash's head on the table. And if they just went to like a shot of Parker or anybody else for a second and then switch back to Ash, it works. Yeah. But instead, like, I don't know if they were like, we got to finish this movie up. I haven't watched the rough cut again.
It is easily the worst part. Yeah.
Yes, because it's so noticeable. And it's such, you know, it's in a movie that is technical perfection. You notice things that aren't hitting the mark. Like if everything looked terrible, it wouldn't stand out the way that it does. But it stands out so badly because you can tell it goes from a shot of like the fake head on the table to clearly actor Ian Holm is now shoved underneath the table and there's like a fake piece of skin on top of the table to look like he's still the head up there.
It doesn't help that they keep in like, okay, and now like you can tell that it was supposed to be like we put the dummy head there and then it'll cut, and for whatever reason they thought that that would work, but instead they put the head there and it like accidentally falls over and let me get it back in the right place, and then it cuts
placing it again.
And like so much is wrong with that like 5 seconds that it's so bewildering. I don't know.
Well, it's funny also because to go back to, I'm going to compare this movie to The Thing because there's actually a really similar moment. So The Thing, we have the blood test scene. We have the shot of, you know, it's a fake hand. I think we went over this with a piston that shoots up the fake blood. But they go to that shot beforehand to show you that fake hand so that your brain has sort of normalizes that it doesn't stand out as like, why is he got a weird stiff hand like that? You know what I mean? You're not thinking about it. And earlier in the movie, in Alien, they sort of do it almost perfectly with Kane's character, the chest bursting scene, which is obviously the scene that puts this movie on the map. Because they do such a great job going to that overhead shot of him thrashing around on the table and switching back to the crowd and going back to him thrashing on the table, switching to the crowd and going to just a slightly closer version of him under the table with the fake body so that you have sort of gotten used to that position of the camera and aren't really thinking about it as much. If they had him all thriving on the table, then jump cut to him underneath the table, it would look terrible. Just the same way that Ash does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's my one big thing of
we're very worked up about that shot. Movie? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. And then I think
it's real bad.
Well, before we get to Aliens, I do want to say Corey and I were sitting on the couch watching this movie, and I don't remember exactly when it happens, but I think the first time one of the alarms starts going off on the ship, Sally, the cat, runs out and is so intrigued by this and then spends the rest of the movie on my lap watching the television. Like this cat.
Oh wait, you guys are watching Aliens?
This cat
Alien
is like,
shit.
This is my favorite movie. Like it was insane. And then at one point when it got scary, she like turned her head and looked away and we were like, is she scared? So
Jonesy kicks that alien's ass off screen.
Oh yeah.
I will say what an effective jump scare that is with Jonesy the cat, because I jumped a few times watching these movies. And like I said, I think I only watched Alien one time before this. And I jumped so fucking hard at that cat. And I can't tell you.
In the locker. Yeah.
Yes. And it should be a really cheap jump scare, but it works because we have set all of it up beforehand to be like, well, the cat ran away at some point and you just weren't thinking about it.
Yep.
The other jump scare is Dallas in the vent. And it's like, it's there. It's fucking on top of you, man. And it's one of those shots that like, if you mute the TV and just look at the alien, the guy in the suit just reaching out at him.
Yeah.
It's kind of stupid looking. But the movie has built it up in such a way that instead you're like, ah!
Yeah.
But that's one of those shots that I feel like I've seen a million times in like videos talking about Alien or something. And you just see the alien in the suit just reaching out like hugs. And like, you're like, oh, that kind of looks weird.
Well, that I had never thought of it as the hug thing that you just mentioned until Red Letter Media did a commentary that I watched with Alien, and here comes where the alien tries to give Dallas a hug, and then I'm like, God damn it, I'm never gonna see it any other way than that. Like, come here, please, and then cut away. Hey. Yeah. Well,
so
that moment is like. when I was my like, I don't know, backstory of watching this as a kid is that I think I was like 8 or 9 or something. My mom used to do movie reviews for the newspaper in town, and she went to go see, I want to say it was like The Grudge, but I feel like that was later than that age for me. So it was some really scary horror movie that she saw, and she was telling me about how it was like the scariest movie she's ever seen, blah, blah, blah. But that it didn't come close to, or it was like very scary, but didn't come close to how scary Alien was the first time she watched it. So it was like, oh, show me that movie. Terrible idea, because then we watched it, after dark, all the lights off in the house, and the alien itself, like even in chest burster form, does not appear till like halfway through the movie. Like you get the face hugger, you get all the spooky derelict spaceship, all that stuff, but you don't see the actual alien until I think an hour in or something.
Yeah,
and
it's literally the midpoint of the movie is the chest burster.
Yeah. So the chest burster scene, it comes out and it like scurries away. And my like little kid brain was like, that's it. I can't do it. Like it's gone from their view. They don't know where that thing is. I can't do this anymore. And I was like, I think I was like either on the verge of tears or crying of like, please, I can't watch the rest of this movie. And it took me like months before I was okay enough to, we're going to start it over, but we have to watch it in broad daylight. It can't be, there could be nothing scary going on. Like I have to be able to know I am completely safe while watching this. And then we watched the whole thing, and yeah, the air shaft jump scare or whatever is really effective with how much, is it Veronica Cartwright? Is that the actress's name? Or
yes.
She's just so like worked up. It's right on top of you. Oh my God. And you're sitting there hugging your legs like, where the hell is it? Oh my God. And then when he turns around, it's a very effective moment. And every time that you just barely catch a glimpse of the alien is like, your mind creates so much extra about it, that it works very well, especially I would say when you're a little kid. Because now I'm seen it 100 times and I'm watching it, and I know when everything's going to happen and all this stuff. It doesn't work as well for me as a 32-year-old in 2023, compared to an 8-year-old or whatever. So I guess I would say, like, to anyone that hasn't seen the movie, if you don't want to know anything about it, stop listening to this podcast. And you want to go into like with seeing it for the first time, it works a lot better not knowing anything that's going to happen. But if show your kids, scare the hell out of your kids.
I had a similar story as a kid. I was 10 years old and we were staying at a friend's house upstate, and I think she had like a couple of movie channels, and so we're cycling through, and I think my parents put on Aliens, and slowly but surely, like, they went to bed, and my brother went to like go upstairs and be like, fuck you, I don't want to hang out with you. And like, so it's just me watching Aliens still, and I was like, I could not stop watching it, but I was fucking terrified the entire time. And I distinctly remember as a little kid, and my memory is not that good. Gab knows I like blocked out 90% of childhood. But I distinctly remember Bishop being ripped in half and just like spouting milk everywhere and be like, oh, why is that happening? What is that? Why is blood like that? Why? Because I hadn't seen the first movie. I was 10 and I just didn't understand what had happened. And
oh God,
definitely scared the shit out of me. And like rewatching it, it's definitely less scary than the first one is, I would say.
Yeah,
but I think it's more pure entertainment than the first one is, which I think
it's much more of an action movie.
Yeah.
It's also just what James Cameron is good at.
Exactly. And that's what I was going to say. And I think there's also such a wild difference, and I've said this on the podcast before, between movies that are made in the 70s and movies that are made in the late 80s, even just based on sound mixing. Like in the late 70s, the earlier version of this film, math.
Yes.
The first one.
Alien,
yes.
Singular. It's very hard to understand what people are saying sometimes. And
really?
It takes, I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm deaf, but I was like, can we put the captions on? Like, I don't know what the fuck these people are saying, because it's the background volume, the background actors, and the main person speaking all feel like they're at the same level. So you can like kind of hear, it's kind of like being at a bar where you're like, I'm listening to the person talk, but it's so loud everywhere else that like it's hard to focus just on what you're saying. Maybe that's like, maybe I have a problem with that.
I definitely, the first like couple times I watched the movie, I didn't know what the hell. I didn't catch any of the, even though it spells this part out pretty well, but I was so like focused on worried about where the alien could be anywhere, you know, all this stuff. Like you're really focused on where's the alien, when's the next scare going to be, all this stuff that I completely missed the first couple times, like any of really what's happening in the plot with any of the company actually wanted them to go to this place and investigate so that they could bring home an alien for us to study and all this stuff. And so, yeah, there's a lot of conversations going on, even just like when they're having a meal or something where everyone's talking over each other and that kind of thing, where it is very hard to understand. And I think that is maybe a little detrimental for someone watching it for the first time when you're like, okay, I want to know what's happening in this movie. But me watching it again a couple days ago, I was really appreciative of that because it kind of made me feel like, oh, these are real people. They're just having a normal day. And then that day gets completely fucked up. Like there's no, it's not as nearly as scripted as the second one is. The Aliens is much more like, these are the lines. Say these lines. Now you say game over, man. Now you say this, you know, all this stuff. And then and there's nothing wrong with that. Like it's still a very good time, but it was I think I liked it.
It's also just a completely different school of acting as well, like just the way that performances were given is totally different. But I think it's a 9-year difference, correct?
Yes,
between these two films. What a difference.
No, 7-year difference.
7-year difference. What a difference. Either way, I mean, even more impressively, what a difference. I think Aliens I would probably describe to someone as an action movie. An Alien I would describe as a thriller.
Yeah, it's like a slasher. It's like a slasher almost in like a in space. Yeah. Jason in space better than the actual Jason in space.
Yeah, apparently Ridley Scott was really into one of the movies he watched before this that he did really like was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And he was like, well, we can sort of do that in space. And it is sort of similar in the sense that like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is remembered as being an extremely violent movie. And you don't see that much. And besides the chest bursting in Alien, you don't really see anyone die. Like you see Alien go for hugs and you see like a couple of like, oh, there's their legs. Like they're definitely dead.
There's sometimes I like that or sometimes I don't like that because I want to see like, well, what is it doing or whatever? Like is it really that scary? Like if you're seeing it for the first time and it's not going to be this, but you could even almost guess that like, oh, everyone's just misunderstanding what's happening. It's actually just collecting them all to throw a birthday party in the basement of the shit, you know, just something like something completely random. Yeah. And you just think that they're just killing everybody or whatever, but no. But I do like it in general more that you don't see what happens because it's much scarier that you don't like, how were they killed and did it kill them? And you know, how gory was it this time or whatever. The guy in the shaft, the Captain Dallas, there's like an alternate ending or like deleted scene from near the ending of where Ripley's about trying to blow up the ship and on her way to the escape pod she finds Dallas like glued to the wall, all like how you see people in Aliens, but they hadn't invented the idea for the queen yet, so it was like the life cycle process was that he's being turned into an egg to be then used on the next host or whatever. And so she finds him like disgustingly sort of John Carpenter-ly meshed like halfway between person and egg form. And he's like giving this speech and all this stuff. So he doesn't actually get killed, but maybe in the normal movie he does, you know, I don't know. It doesn't really matter, but
I was actually going to bring up a different thing, but I know that he says, kill me is one of the things that he asks Ripley to do. But Gab, I know you were saying that you don't like that once she's on the ship, you have like the second alien fight, which I do like that because we do want to see our protagonist actually beat the alien rather than just be like, I got off the ship, he's definitely blowing up on there. Apparently there was an alternate version of this because at some point they didn't know what to do once Ripley gets on the ship. They felt like that's kind of flat. And the original version Ridley Scott like had the idea for, and he apparently pitched, was the xenomorph beheads Ripley. like just yanks her head right off. And then we see the xenomorph hand pushing buttons.
Oh my
and it's
God.
still, the end is recording a log, but it's the xenomorph speaking as Captain Dallas.
Oh
recording the
yeah,
log,
God.
which sounds awful. And like apparently the executives, when they heard this, were like, "We will cancel this whole fucking movie." that is not the move.
Yeah, that would be terrible.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
No. I want to make sure this is clear. I don't dislike the ending of the movie. I just think that visually you lost me. Like it was, we were doing well. Obviously there was like a mishap with the head on the table, but we were doing well. I was scared. I was like, oh my God, not scared, but I was like, oh my God, that was crazy. And then like, oh, we're going to do that again. Okay, cool. Now I think we've done a really great disservice by not yet diving into Sigourney Weaver. And I think there are a couple of things that are really cool about this. Number one, from what I understand, this is really like the first time we have a female lead as an action hero in a film.
I would say so.
Very early. Yeah.
But
it's also her first actual movie.
Yeah. Although, I'm going to be honest with you. Is this not like the apex of her career? Like what else do we know Sigourney Weaver for?
Goosebusters.
The Goosebusters.
The Goosebusters.
I mean, she's in a lot of stuff.
I mean, I can name the things I was going to say
her
later
from this. Yeah.
Avatar, Cabin in the Woods, Galaxy Quest, Ghostbusters, Holes.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say again,
classic.
Is this not the apex of her career? Yes or no?
I mean, there's a lot of people like that. If we were talking about Harrison Ford, I could say like Star Wars and Indiana Jones are the apex of his career. But like he's got 1,000 other roles that are great.
But that's not what I'm not suggesting that she should get the electric chair. I'm saying this is the highlight of her career.
God damn it, Gab! I won't let you do this to Sigourney.
Like, I'm sorry. I'm just saying.
Sabina McKenna.
Thank you. I've been waiting for that. Sabina McKenna. Which I said all weekend. But did you know that she is 6 feet tall?
Yeah, she's very tall. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
6 feet tall.
Because they said Yaphet Kotto, who plays Parker, he's 6'2", and he had to bend down at places on the set because there were certain places that are just made too small.
He'd bonk his head. Yeah.
Wow.
6 feet tall.
My God.
I'm pretty sure her part was not written for a woman either, and they just it was just a part.
In the original script, they're all written unisex. It literally said on the script, like for marketability reasons, you can put a man or a woman in any of these roles. But apparently, they did not anticipate that a woman would be cast as the lead.
I think that works really well for Ripley because it's not like this. Now, okay, I'm not going to get into it. I disagree with the modern day, like, oh, you're just all the woke stuff. I mean, all the people being mad about like, oh, this just because it's a woman in the action role doesn't mean anything. Everyone is ridiculous. But the fact that this one, it's such an old movie at this point, and it's just she's just there. Like it doesn't matter what her gender is. She's just the action hero or whatever. She defeats the alien, and happened to be a lady. Yeah.
I also think just having a woman in that role doesn't make it a strong female character, and I feel like what I noticed in the writing that I think makes her a strong character, because I love Terminator and I love Linda Hamilton as Sarah Connor. I feel like everybody does, but when you watch, I want to say it's Terminator Genesis was Terminator Dark Fate, whichever shitty Terminator brought Linda
the most
Hamilton
recent
back.
one. Yes,
that character is not good anymore because she's just Sarah Connor badass. And if Ripley came back in Aliens and was like, yeah, I know how to kill these fucking things, I'll shoot them all into space. Like, no, she's terrified. And I think what makes it important is that seeing a character be afraid and then being like, well, I have to overcome that fear. Makes them more interesting and makes them feel stronger to us, the audience, saying, well, I would just shit my pants and die in that situation. Good for them. And I think it's something you see a lot in movies now is characters who are just like, no, I can take on that threat. I can take on any threat without like a second thought.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I think, there's a lot of conversation around like, well, it's detrimental to young women to not have enough female, strong female characters and action movies and stuff like that. But I think it's even more detrimental to set up a young woman to see another woman in a role like that without any kind of fear. It's like, okay, well, I have fear, so therefore I could never be that strong, like it's
It
important
also
to
just
really
makes a character
see
less
both sides of
interesting.
those.
Like you can't relate
Yeah.
to a character that's not afraid of anything.
Yeah.
Well, I can, but you can't.
Oh my god. Then it just becomes, as Scotty Cameron would say, a Steven Seagal straight to video bargain bin disaster.
Yeah, yeah. Which somebody memed and I sent to you.
Which there are plenty of those that riff off of this franchise that are just like, you know, weird looking alien on a spaceship, but it does not work the way that this does. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of
I
movies
did
that feel
think-
similar to these movies.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Being trapped somewhere with something and not knowing where it is feels like it's become a trope that's been used a lot. But I do think it's interesting. You know, I really enjoyed that Aliens picks up exactly where Alien left off. I really liked that. I wasn't expecting that. But I do think it's interesting that James Cameron, you know, kind of decided, and I guess you have to if you're going to really continue this series. But I think it's interesting that he chose to take it off of the ship, because really Alien is about that. Like, we're all trapped here and it's on the ship. How are we going to get out of here? We're going to have to blow it up. It's blocking our way to the exit, yada, yada. And even though Aliens ends on, you know, in that sort of colony that is going to fall apart if they don't get off of it, and they've got to get the ship and, you know, whatever, to the ship. It does feel like the world expanded quite a bit. And so I don't know, it just felt like it worked, but it was a very bold choice to kind of remove okay, well, we're only, you know, it's only happening in this tiny location. And so there's only so many places we can run.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be, if the sequel was the same kind of setup, it might not work it might not be as like distinctly memorable or whatever. But I do agree that, like, yeah, the first one has the benefits from, first of all, it's some distant future year that we don't know, like, or they show it, but you know, we're not going to be alive, so we're whatever. And it's on a weird looking, like, space trucker island kind of looking ship, like it's just this big unrecognizable shape. And then they're also in
space truck horn one time.
No, they didn't. No one flew by and going, wah, wah, like, come on. But yeah, and they're in some part of space that we don't know, and all this stuff that's like so mysterious and weird. And then, by the time that we're in the second one, it's like there's a boardroom meeting, and here we are to discuss, and we're gonna go. Yeah, everybody, my pal Jim's over on LV 426. He lives down the street. Like, it's just this, like, 50 years later, it's developed already into this, like, completely, we just go there on Thursdays for holiday and, you know, whatever. It's fine. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I do appreciate the time jump and stuff like that. So it's not just like the very next second and what's going to happen, but it's still, it is not as spooky, I guess. Yeah.
And I definitely think it's not trying to be. It's sort of replacing that spookiness with thrills.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Because it feels like a very different genre of movie.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to take what happened and we're going to James Cameronify it. Which,
in many ways,
which
half the cast is just the Terminator cast.
And they're all great.
Yes.
But I think ultimately, comparing the two, like, I think I was a little bit more bought in to the story of Alien and a little bit more bought into the movie magic of Aliens.
Yeah.
I think that makes total sense.
Yeah. I think since they both rely on about the same type of effects, like all the guys in costumes and all the ships and all that kind of stuff, but Aliens takes it to the, like, Steven Spielberg-ish level of spectacle, I guess. Especially with, you know, it's a lot of stuff from both of these you would consider kind of cliche nowadays, of like like, even though the jump scares, I think, do work a lot better than some in modern horror movies, you know, from this 45-year-old movie. But there's just stuff like, I don't know. I was thinking that watching Aliens, in the scene that you brought up, Dylan, of near the end with the Queen, where a lot of the time the guys in suits, which I think maybe one of your fun facts is that I believe there were only 4 total alien costumes for Aliens, but they made
6. But yeah,
6.
something
Okay,
like that,
yeah, it's
like
very
a very small number of actual people.
Yeah, but they, you know, camera trickery, cutting to different angles, all this stuff. They're reusing them very well. And normally a lot of the shots are pretty dang convincing of like, that can't be a guy. Like he's jumping like a Jurassic Park velociraptor or something. Like what is going on? But then that shot of the queen, like looking at them like, hey, back off. It's just like, oh, yes, I am a puppet man. I will leave the room. And a couple of those times where I just thought like, this is like nowadays you would consider like a really cheap B-level independent movie or something where you'd be like, ah, man, that didn't turn out very well. Where at the time this is an $18 million movie or something like that. And it's like,
yeah, it's something like that. So wait, what do you mean? You think that moment looks bad?
Not necessarily bad, but
and
just
what specifically, the two aliens backing away or the queen?
The alien, the drones that are the aliens backing away. Yeah, I think it's just they do a really good job 90% of the time of choosing a good, and this is true for both alien movies that we watch for this, choosing a good angle or choosing a good amount of time that we see the alien or whatever, where either your brain fills in the gaps of what doesn't look super great, or there's so little that you're like, wait, hang on. Oh, what was that? Oh, I'm really afraid now.
Yeah.
But then you get every once in a while a shot like when in the first one, when you two that are left that aren't Sigourney Weaver, go down there and get the tanks of stuff. And then the alien shows up and it's just like this really awkward shot of it just like scooting across the floor. I'm like, that looked really bad. Why did you choose that? You know, whatever. So just random stuff where it's like, ah, man, if only that one shot didn't look bad, you know, it would be much more convincing. Yeah.
I know in the first one, that's why they try and limit it a bit more because they knew like this thing, if you see it too much, isn't that good. And
if it just walks into frame like a person, it's not scary. But if it's like, oh, I just saw its mouth or just its tail or something like that, it's like, holy shit, what is this?
Well, and you know, sorry, Dill. I just want to say, I think the most effective alien for me in the first one was the one that was in the getaway ship stuck in the wall.
Mm-hmm. Because it blends into the pipes and stuff. Yeah.
It does. I kept looking at it like, is that an alien? And they took just long enough that I was like, I don't think it is. And
then hand.
It's like, why is it so lethargic by that point?
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess, yeah.
I literally Googled, I was like, is it hurt? Did somebody hurt it at some point?
It knows it's a creepy movie alien and it needs to be a creepy movie alien.
Well, what I do love is because of the fame of these movies, people will find a way to theorize about every single thing that happens.
Yeah.
Like because they didn't show Lambert, Veronica Cartwright's character, die, they were like, did it try and have sex with her and violate her and turn her into something?
Right, the tail going up her pant leg and stuff,
Yes, and I'm like, well, I don't get that, but all right, if that's what you want to make it into to make it even creepier, because there's definitely a lot of forced impregnation and
sexual overtones galore in all of this.
Somebody had said, and I was like, okay, you know what, this does kind of make sense, that they were like, well, the xenomorph is probably docile because it is actually it's a fucking baby that was just born and it just killed 6 people. It's probably just honestly actually tired, and it's probably just sick of people being up in its grill, that it's like, you're a threat, I have to kill you. And I was like, you know what, I buy that. And it snuck into there because it was the only place to get away from the alarm and the blaring noise, which kind of makes it
all
cute.
the
and
steam.
it probably wanted a hug. It just wanted a hug and quiet.
A little thing,
And then she shot it into space, and it was like,
I know. I was giving everyone hugs. Yeah.
Is anyone better at saying bitch than Sigourney Weaver? Because in the first movie, when she tries to cancel that self-destruct alarm, and Mother's like, nope, I'm doing it anyway. Sorry. And she just goes, you bitch. Like, you were like, oh, damn.
So good. It's so good.
Yeah. And of course, it's a much more action movie style of here comes the camera right close up on her face. She's going to say the line. And then she says the line. But it's so good that you can't.
Yeah. Oh, it's iconic.
Yeah.
Sigourney Weaver, very much deservedly so, becomes a star after these movies, much to Gab's chagrin, who thinks she's a nobody.
That's not what she said.
I'm surprised that some people didn't get bigger from these movies. I think particularly my mind's going to Michael Biehn, who is great as Hicks in what could be a very small role where he doesn't talk much, and he just can even silently make things work. Like the way that he'll pick Newt up and put her on the table so that she can see what they're all doing, and it just tells you more about his character just from that action. Or he'll push Ripley behind him in a dangerous situation because he's a soldier and he's brave, and he just does everything right in that movie. And he was cast at the last minute because the person who was cast was caught with a bunch of drugs in a foreign country and had to leave.
I forget who it was though. I knew this fact, but I don't
It's,
remember who
James
originally
Remar,
was.
who you might
That's
know from, like,
right.
the Warriors
Yes.
and stuff like
yes.
that.
He voiced Hawkman in the DC universe.
Yes, he was Hawkman in the Batman the Animated Series shows, the DCAU.
Yeah.
Gab was like, "Damn it, we were so close."
Hey,
like,
it doesn't
yeah.
go. Yeah.
But he does everything right, I feel like. And the
Yeah.
only things I feel like I saw him in besides the Terminator and Aliens is I feel like I see him pop up in Planet Horror, which is one of the Grindhouse movies that was like Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez. And I can't think of anything else that like was major with him in it, except for I guess he's in like Tombstone also. I think it's what it's called.
I don't know. I don't think I've seen anything else besides Terminator that he's in, but
he's one of those guys that I feel like I'm like, he was a great action hero. He's got leading man looks. Why wasn't he bigger?
yeah.
Yeah.
Bill
I
Paxton,
think,
deservedly so. Although,
Yeah.
did you hate Bill
Paxton's
Paxton?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
I mean, I thought he was kind of annoying, but I loved him in True Lies, so I was like, it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've heard people hate Bill Paxton in this movie, and I'm like, no, I totally get it.
No, he's
He
like
has
one of the
some
best
put on
characters, yeah.
speech impediment thing, which kind of drives me crazy.
What are we gonna do?
Yeah, it's like, why are you gonna talk like this? It's like the little Nicky thing. It's like, all right, enough. What a weird choice. I'll say this. Watching Aliens, as soon as I can't think of his name, but the robot guy in Aliens, Bishop, thank you.
Yeah.
As soon as we find out he's a robot, I was like, fuck this guy. We don't trust those robots. And then he wound up like kind of saving the day, and I was like, damn, I fell right into that trap.
Yes,
He's an artificial person.
Yeah,
thank
fell
you
right
very
in.
much. Yeah.
Bishop is great, and I feel like,
Yeah.
you know, I knew the twist was coming with Ash, but because I love Bishop so much, even though he scarred me as a child, like once you see Ash like spinning around and freaking out, you're like, fuck this guy, I miss Bishop. You're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Especially when he's giving Parker the biggest titty twister in movie history.
Yeah, the whole, I mean, we talked about the head on the table, but that whole Ash scene is probably to me like the worst scene in the movie, in that it is just, it's the most like of its time scene to me, in that I would expect to see it in any other like psychologically off-putting 70s movie like The Deer Hunter or Apocalypse Now or something like that, where it's like it's so strange that's why it's scary, because you have no idea like, what am I looking at, what is happening. But it doesn't work for me in this movie, where it's like, okay, but we already have like a weird antagonistic scary thing that we're supposed to be afraid of, but now my attention is completely being drawn to milky guy. Why is he so milky? And why is his head over there, and but his body is, which part of him is real, you know, all this stuff. And then he's doing weird stuff, like he grabs a guy's tit, he tries to shove a magazine down Sigourney Weaver's mouth. What is he trying to do? Your head. Yeah, I don't know what he's trying to do there. It's very weird. And then the sound, like you were talking about the sound design, as he's spinning around, there's just like 80 yard like stuff happening, and I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Also, if you want to think hard about Alien, like, how does the company know that there's anything to explore there?
I was thinking that, and I'm pretty sure, I'm sure that's kind of what, because there's been several Alien movies since these two, and including a couple of prequels that Ridley Scott was trying to make that would end up leading to the first Alien. I assume that he would eventually explain why they knew that or whatever, but we never got there, and we might not ever, because those have been like canceled or rescheduled indefinitely and all this stuff. It doesn't really matter though. Like it's never bothered me in that, like, okay, this mysterious company is just, they somehow knew this was here and that they're really evil. But looking back on it, is kind of like a unanswered question.
If you get to the point that you're not enjoying the movie because of that, you're sort of nitpicking it, and you don't want to like the movie.
Right.
I do feel like, not to get too deeply into any movies in this franchise that aren't Alien or Aliens.
Yeah.
But Ridley Scott, I will say, I feel like I had heard that he didn't really like what James Cameron did with Aliens at some point.
Yeah.
And when I think about Alien Covenant and Prometheus, I'm like, dude, you did the same thing, where you were like, let me do something similar, but I'm going to build out the world way more with whatever the fuck I feel like. And it's like, those things for me do not really work, even though a lot of it, having rewatched Alien, is so similar to what does happen in Alien.
Gab, had you seen any of the other ones?
No.
You're good,
before?
Gab.
Okay.
You're good.
Yeah, no, it's
the
fine.
only thing I knew was that one portion of the Great American Movie Ride. That was it.
Yeah.
You saw what you had to see.
I definitely that was a ride that we went on too, where it's like I'm looking for it the whole time, and then you can kind of see it when the light flashes a couple times. Oh, it's up there on the right. Like, oh, here it comes. You know, I really like that.
Yeah,
I will say, there is a video game, Alien Isolation, that is like, it's supposed to, I guess, take place between Alien and Aliens, and you play as Ripley's daughter. And
this is something I wanted to talk about. Yes, but continue.
It is fucking terrifying because it's like, it's one of those games where you can't really do that much fighting. And especially with the actual xenomorph, once the xenomorph appears in the game, you're just dead. Like if you don't hide from it, you're dead.
Did you have that game when we were kids?
No, because that came out, it was probably,
it's like 2014 or 15.
yeah, and I remember it was like
okay.
the first game I bought when I got the PS4, and
okay.
I never finished it because I was like, "Fuck this, I can't do it." Like, I was like,
Same.
I can't beat this.
It was so like it was very well done in the same style as the first movie, where you never know when it's gonna pop out, and you don't know how far into the game you're gonna get before the alien appears. So you're just on the edge of your seat the whole time, and it turned out like. I was again playing with all the lights on in broad daylight. Like I'm not gonna be able to do this. I can't live the movie Alien at nighttime, you know. And the first time that you see the alien, you don't even see anything but its tail like go into a pipe somewhere, and it's again several hours into playing the game. And I just put the controller down. So I was like, I don't think I can continue. I don't care what the story is. I can't do this. Yeah.
Not that we need to stay on the game for too long, but there's parts of the game too, Gab, where you're just running, and all of a sudden, like it cuts to you can't do anything. Your character looks up. There's the xenomorph. You're dead. And it's just like by that point, you're like, oh, so I'm just never safe. I can just never be safe at any time while playing this game.
Or so not playing the game.
Is it like random? You know what I mean? Like a. At this time when you hit start, it's going to be 5 minutes.
It's just sort of like triggered by different areas. And I think eventually you realize like, oh, so if I walk down that hallway, there's a vent above me and it might come out of that vent.
Sure.
So
okay.
It's different from like your typical, like it's always in the same kind of region of the ship, but it's never like, oh, I'm here. I died and now I've respawned. I just will avoid that spot. It's like, no, it's probably going to be in a different spot this time. So it's never, it is sort of randomized. The thing when you brought up the game, Dylan, what that reminded me was you said you play as Ripley's daughter. Did you guys watch the theatrical? Like, where did you watch Aliens, or how did you watch it for this discussion?
Amazon Prime.
Yeah. Okay.
I used a VPN and watched it on Disney Plus Ireland.
Oh, okay. But so just the normal theatrical version of the movie?
Version. So you're talking about the deleted scene where we find out that during the 57-year time jump, Ripley, who had a daughter when she left, has her daughters died.
Yes. Yeah, because that scene, you basically just described it as Burke in Aliens, who we also haven't talked about. What a character. He when he at the start when he's like, hey, welcome back to the real world. Everything's, it's been 57 years. Here's a picture of what your daughter looks like now. And it's just this old woman that I think is Sigourney Weaver's mom or something like that's what the picture is. And it's not in the original cut of the movie. And I didn't realize that. So that scene, and also a scene of Newt and her family being killed as they like happen upon the ship. Like Newt's dad is like
the first one to be hit by a face hugger.
Yeah, he's like a construction worker or something that for some reason has Newt with him, and the little brother that she talks about that is dead by the time we meet her, and they're like roaming around on the planet looking for minerals or whatever the fuck they do, and oh, here's this spaceship. What's in there? Hang on a second, and then he comes back to the thing like, oh god, I've got a face hugger on my face, and she's screaming, and then it cuts back to whatever Ripley's doing. And it was like both of those scenes being missing from the movie, it feels so empty. They just suddenly say, oh, we've lost contact with the people on the planet, we got to go there now. and I was like, oh, what? Am I missing something? What happened? But I think it's only
disagree.
You think so? Okay. I was just going to say, I think it might be the amount of times I've seen it with those scenes where I'm like, those are part of the movie. And to me, at the very least, the Ripley finding out about her daughter, it tells you she had a daughter. It shows you that she's a mother, and she was very like torn up to learn that her daughter is dead and she'll never, get to see her again and all this stuff. And then that like helps me a lot with why she is so motherly and helpful with Newt and all this stuff, versus when you don't know that, it's like, okay, I guess this is who she is, that we didn't know, or something.
I think it's a good acting scene for Sigourney Weaver. Yeah. But I feel like that is not something that's ever established in the first movie, so I don't feel like you really need it. And I also feel like you don't need it because the movie shows that through watching it, and we get those themes of guardianship and motherhood out of Ripley anyway. And I feel like it's just, a very blunt setup of like, this is what the theme is going to be because you have this scene telling you that. Same thing with Newt. Like, you don't really need Newt's origin. She's got like 10 lines.
You don't need that one,
but we care about.
Yeah. I did think it was very sort of like, oh, so we're seeing Sigourney Weaver give a shit about this little girl because she's a woman, right? And like, not that I don't give a shit. I'm not offended by that at all.
Hates women.
I just I hate women. I hate when,
children.
Yeah.
Gotta hate the woke agenda, aliens.
Yeah. I just I felt a little bit like, oh, okay, so we're just gonna take this trope essentially and run with it, but it makes a little bit more sense when you understand that she is a mother, and maybe even a mother who recently lost, or to her knowledge recently lost a child.
Yeah.
Do we only feel that way because she's a woman though? Because Hicks does the same thing, and he sort of becomes fatherly and protecting of her. And we're not like, oh, it's that old trope. You know what I mean?
No, but that's because that isn't an old trope.
Oh,
yeah, Dylan. Well, no,
Bitch.
Okay, I think I can agree. Yeah, that was just as good as Sigourney Weaver. I think I think it still works just fine without either of those scenes. Like, it's not like it's a bad movie now or something because those are missing. But I just felt because I've seen it so many times with those in there, it felt like something was missing. And it also, I think it just gives us more time in okay, let's catch up to this is what present day is now. What's going on in this universe before we then hear, oh, we've lost contact with the colony, and then they go there. Instead, it's just like, welcome back, Ripley. We've lost contact with the colony. Yeah. Like, yeah, I told you that would happen, you idiot, or whatever. And I guess that kind of does work with the create it in your imagination. Who knows what happened to start all of this or whatever. You don't need it is maybe a little bit heavy-handed to show the dad, Newt's dad, get face huggered, and that's why this is all happening or whatever. But it's I don't know. I missed both of those.
Where it's definitely implied. It's like there were 65 or 70 families on there, and then we know that she's the only person alive, and there's a bunch of aliens. Like, it doesn't take an accountant to put that math together.
True.
I will say also, can we talk about the difference in? We pointed out the midpoint of Alien is the chest bursting scene. That's the first appearance of any alien. The midpoint of Aliens, because I specifically wanted to find out the difference between these two, is the ship being destroyed, and it's that game over man moment.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh wow. By that point, they've already faced aliens. They've already lost bad. Aliens also kind of similar, and I don't know what year Predator is, but it's sort of similar to Predator in the
83, I think. I can't remember.
I'll have to look up in a minute, but it's similar in the sense that we start off with these very macho, very tough military people who are going into the situation like nothing that can stop us. Just tell me
Predator
where it is.
87, the year after Aliens, which I did not realize. But okay,
because I'm sure neither one took from the other, but Predator is so similar in that sense of setting up how fucking macho these squadrons are, only to see them get eviscerated and realize, oh, we have no idea what threat we were dealing with.
Yeah. But I think at the end of the day, the difference in when we finally see the alien being halfway in Alien, and we're already well past that, halfway into Aliens, is really just, again, a testament to the differences in filmmaking from year to year, but also just in the fact that in a movie that is a thriller, that is suspenseful, you don't want to see the threat until, you know what I mean? You want to keep it as minimum as possible. Whereas in an action movie, it's like, we gotta have bitches throwing down left and right, you know?
And it was
my
still
mind went to Jaws. I don't think if Jaws 1, we don't see the shark. Jaws 4, The Revenge, the shark is eating an arm in the first like 30 seconds of that fucking movie.
Yeah. No, the first Alien movie taking that long, I was a little worried for Gab's sake that you might find it boring because of that. I think it works really well with the suspensefulness or whatever. But as someone who hadn't seen it before, I was worried because I used to work at the video rental store that still exists in my town that I live in. And a couple came in once asking me for a recommendation on a scary movie. And I told them to watch Alien because I was like, they were like very specific about like, I don't want any of that Freddy Krueger shit, you know, just like all this, like they didn't want like some, I mean, not to badmouth Freddy Krueger, that's not what I'm trying to do, but like, they didn't want like kind of a, you know, expected horror suggestion or whatever.
Sure.
And neither of them had seen Alien, so I suggested that. And I was like, couldn't wait for them to come back and tell me, you know, how terrified they were or whatever. And they just came back and told me how boring they thought it was and how slow they thought it was and all this stuff. And I don't think I said it to their faces, but you know, they left. And then the employee that was there with me, I'm like, I'm sorry they didn't have enough explosions for you. Like, I'm sorry this isn't Transformers 3 or whatever. But
yeah,
but yeah, I don't know.
Well, Gab, let me ask you, having not seen it until the year 2023 and having seen plenty of other horror movies and things like that, was this movie scary at all? Like, did you still think Alien was a scarier movie? Was it a tame movie? Because I just watched The Exorcist in full like a week ago, and that's known as like the scariest movie ever. And it's like, how many movies have been built off of that by this point you sort of know all of its tricks? There were still some scenes that were scary, but I was like, I'm not terrified of this now.
I watched The Exorcist as a kid, and I was like, my mom was like, you're gonna shit your pants. You're never gonna sleep again. And I was like, really? I don't know.
That was my mom showing Zach and I the Amityville Horror, and we laughed at it. Like, they showed the gateway to hell downstairs, and like, we were like, Well,
also, it should be known that we live, especially you growing up, like not far from that house.
I live 5 minutes away from the Amityville Horror house right now.
Yeah.
They just have a sign outside that's like, please don't take a bunch of pictures of our home. We've remodeled this place. Sad. It doesn't even look like it.
I live like right over there is the Goonies house. And people are coming there all the time and bothering the people but it's gone through so many owners since I've lived here. You know, I grew up here that it's gone from people that are like, get the hell away from my property and like leave me alone, because people come there all the time, or people that are like, come on in, let's see the living room and all this stuff. So I think that's who currently lives there. Yeah.
Where do you live?
Astoria, Oregon is also where the Ring 2 was filmed.
Whoa, famous.
Whoa, the Goonies and the Ring 2.
And Kindergarten Cop and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 and part
Secret
of Free Willy.
No,
I think so.
Turtles Through Time.
Wow.
Oh, and oh god, Short Circuit, the robot 80s movie that nobody remembers.
Wow.
The one where
I'm
Fisher
over
Stevens
here.
is in brown face.
Probably, yeah.
Yikes.
Speaking of which, transition. Wait, aliens.
No, Gab's trying to say something.
Sorry, Gab, go ahead.
No, it's not relevant. Brown face. Continue.
Oh yes, aliens. I love the character of Vasquez. Absolutely fucking love Vasquez.
Yeah.
I think she's
Speaking
awesome.
of brown face,
badass.
yeah, Jesus Christ.
Played by Jeanette Goldstein.
Yeah,
a
not Hispanic
woman.
person. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I didn't know this till pretty recently, and I was shocked. Yeah.
Wow.
It's the same woman who she's the stepmom in Terminator 2 Judgment Day, and I was like, that's Vasquez? Like, I was like, oh my God.
That is crazy.
James Cameron actors, yeah.
Never would have guessed that. Okay, so to answer your question, did I think it was scary? I feel like I need to start out by explaining my entire life. I have thought that when someone says, oh, that movie is really scary, that it meant like you were like really deeply affected. Like I don't know.
Did I just help you have this breakthrough recently of what a scary movie is?
Yeah, that like it doesn't necessarily mean that you are like not able to sleep that night. It just means that while you were watching it, you were like, oh no, what's gonna happen?
Mm-hmm.
So my gut is to say no, I wasn't scared. Like, it was a movie, it was fine. But I definitely was subject to the jump scares. I was really excited to see what was going to happen with the alien in the original. The sequel, not really, because the sequel just felt like an action film where it was like, I can't wait to see like what they blow up next. And she's got her flamethrower and, you know, they
big gun. Yeah.
Yeah. They like taped all the guns together. And I was like, whoa. So I know.
I do love that phrasing of it. Like, let's tape all these fucking guns together.
Make bigger gun. Yeah.
Yeah.
She does literally duct tape a gun to another gun, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
She does. I was like, all right, that's one way to do it. You know, I think Alien was definitely more like suspenseful. I was definitely a little bit more on the edge of my seat. Whereas in the sequel, I was kind of just like along for the ride and like ready to see, you know, who was going to win. But I wasn't nervous or anxious.
Were you aware, like, some scenes from both of these movies have been so ingrained in pop culture zeitgeist, like the chest burster and stuff like that. Were there scenes from either of these that you like, oh, it's this, I'm aware of that scene or whatever?
You know, yes and no. I think a lot of the things that were very reminiscent of The Thing felt very familiar, and it felt very like, oh, I can understand like where this maybe came from. I obviously knew about them coming in through the vents because of that ride from Disney World, which is, again, like a very common, you know, I'm sure that other people who have never been to Disney are familiar with that. But I don't think there was anything other than the sight of the alien, like the very long head and the arms, like that was very clearly, you know, I've seen that before. But it felt a little bit like there were no particular scenes where it was like, oh, I've seen this done, but there were definitely things that were happening that felt like, oh wow, we've taken from this many times since its birth.
The Marines in the second one are just like every Halo character. Like the sergeant dude with the cigar in his mouth, he's just Sergeant Johnson from Halo 3. Like I guess he's in all of them, but the tropes that have been taken from both of these movies are countless, I would say, in many genres of film sense. I think like the big one that sticks out to me that is kind of pioneered by these is like the set design is so unique and creepy. Like the ship in the first one and then the like underground slimy tunnel stuff from the second one are both just so like uniquely iconic in my brain as like that is from this movie. You know, like it doesn't look like necessarily any other type of. I was just watching some video that described that like all like sci-fi movies of the time from the first one were so like clean. You know, everything is this bright utopian future. Even if there's a bad guy, they're still just like in these very like pristine looking ships and outfits and shooting lasers
like
at each other.
2001 Space Odyssey or something like
that. Yeah. Or like Gab's favorite Battlestar Galactica.
And of course.
But that's stuff like that where it's just
even
like,
Star Wars.
Yeah. I mean, Star Wars, it's got its like kind of gritty, gross planets sometimes, but like especially in the first
those ships,
movie,
the Empire ships are crystal clear.
Yeah, and whereas this movie is like it's truckers in space, and they're stepping in shit, and they're dripping all over. Like everything is dirty and gross, and you it feels lived in, and all this stuff. And like everything I would say since then has kind of taken that as like even when you like I do a lot of CGI visual stuff, and if you made a I don't know little like droid looking R2D2 thing or something. And it's just like, now I put the metal texture on it. Then you have to go in and like make it have a bunch of scratches and dents and shit like that before it's like, okay, that looks like a real thing. And I feel like this movie is just a lot of like, how many pipes we got in the warehouse? And let's go to the place and get a bunch of just like random barrels and shit like that. And it's just like, but then when you combine all of that and like water it down every shot, it looks very realistic, even though you don't know exactly what you're looking at. So I like that a lot.
Why are there chains and water in the space shuttle? I don't know, but it's there.
There's chains so that the tail of the alien can look like a chain later, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love Parker and Brett in the first movie as work besties. Those two
Yeah.
totally they feel
They're
like real coworkers.
Tell her it'll take 17 hours. Oh, it'll be about 25 hours or whatever. Like, this is really good. Yeah.
Every time Parker speaks, I'm like, this guy fucking rocks. This guy's the man.
That's awesome.
Well,
Well,
I mean, there are
don't know about you
limitations,
guys.
but I like it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm excited to hear some facts.
Yeah. The
It's
ones
fact
that I
time.
haven't already said.
Fact me up.
I want the truth.
Face the facts, Dukes.
Facts have no place with an organized religion.
So we're going to start with our ratings. It's interesting because I think at some point we'll have to have a conversation about which one's better and about sequels in general. But Alien on IMDb has an 8.5 out of 10. Aliens has an 8.4 out of 10.
Oh, interesting.
Close
On the
race.
Rotten Tomatoes tomato meter, Alien has a 98% with an average rating of 9.1 out of 10. Aliens, 98% with an average rating of 9.1 out of 10.
Oh, man.
Alien-
That's just everyone giving both the same rating.
The Alien audience score, 94% with an average score of 4.4 out of 5. The Aliens audience score, tell me if you see it coming, 94% with an average score of 4.4 out of 5.
Jeez.
So, Alien was directed by Ridley Scott, who also has gone on to direct Gladiator, Matchstick Men, Blade Runner, and Thelma and Louise.
And
Aliens,
Prometheus and
and a bunch of other alien stuff that wasn't as good as his first Aliens.
Yes.
Aliens, directed by James Cameron, who also directed The Abyss, Titanic, and Terminator. Had to go with some more random ones.
Mm-hmm.
Alien, written by Dan O'Bannon and Ronald Shusett, who also wrote Total Recall, Return of the Living Dead, Above the Law, and King Kong Lives. I don't know why I included King Kong Lives. I just like the title.
King Kong dies.
Aliens, written by James Cameron, David Giler, and Walter Hill, who also wrote Fun with Dick and Jane, Alien 3, Rambo First Blood Part 2, and The Warriors.
Wait, so the first Alien... Oh, no. Which one has the same writers as the third one?
One of the guys who wrote Aliens also wrote Alien 3.
Okay.
But
I guess
Alien
that
3 was
adds
famously mismanaged by the studio and
Yes.
mandated into a whole different thing.
An entire other episode that we probably won't do because it's not a movie to watch before you die.
It's not worth nominating, yes. Although
No.
I was like, should I rewatch that too? And I opted
Well,
not.
now I want to watch the rest of them after because I never do it as like a marathon like that, but I'm sitting there like I own all of them. I should just watch the next one. But I'm like, no, I can't. I'm gonna pollute my memory of the first two if I watch the third one before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Disney Ireland has Alien 3.
Good to know.
Alien stars Sigourney Weaver, who we already told you a bunch of stuff that she's from. Tom Skerritt, who plays Dallas, who you might know from Top Gun, Contact, or that episode of Law & Order SVU where he's the racist judge.
Oh,
Really
his
good
most
episode.
famous role, yeah.
It's a really good episode where he's like, I thought they were good mothers. That's why I was only letting the white mothers who killed their kids go. Good
Oh
episode.
no,
Good episode.
Dallas, what have you done?
John Hurt as Kane, who you might know from The Elephant Man, Snowpiercer, and Hellboy. Veronica Cartwright as Lambert, who you might know from The Witches of Eastwick, The Birds, and Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
John
Dean
Hurt
Stanton-
also in V for Vendetta as big brother looking head man on giant screen. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but
I am.
Yeah.
V for Vendetta, not as good as I don't think it's that good. I think it's fun.
It's overrated, but it's not bad. Anyway.
Harry Dean Stanton as Brett, who you might know from The Green Mile, Twister, but not that one that you're thinking of, and Red Dawn.
Is it because he's twists again?
Well, he's in a movie called Twister, and I was like, he's in Twister because I've seen Twister. And no,
Bill
there's a
Paxton's
movie.
in Twister.
What is this? See, I told you, it's like 8 years earlier, and it's just a random movie called Twister that he's like the star of. I was like, oh, okay.
Strange.
The IMDb misled me hard for a minute because I was looking
Yeah.
at it, staring at it, like, why wouldn't Bill Paxton be first on here?
Mhm.
Where else? Yaphet Kotto as Parker, you might know from Live and Let Die, Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare, Homicide: Life on the Street. Ian Holm as Ash. I'm done listing what people are from. And
In Home,
Balaji
Lord of the
Badejo-
Rings, Bilbo Baggins.
Yes. Balaji Badejo was the guy in the suit. He's the famous guy.
Yeah.
Aliens.
Aliens.
Sigourney Weaver, Michael Biehn, who we already talked about what he's from. Lance Henriksen as Bishop, who you might know from The Quick and the Dead, Alien vs. Predator, Near Dark, and Pumpkinhead. Paul Reiser
Terminator.
as Burke, who you might know from Stranger Things, Mad About You, and Beverly Hills Cop. And also you got Bill Paxton, Jeanette Goldstein, Mark Ralston, and Carrie Henn, who played Newt in her only
Gab,
film
do you
role.
watch Stranger Things?
I watched the first season.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's the second or third season where the Burke guy shows up. And as soon as he showed up, I'm like, don't trust this guy. It's Burke. Fuck
that guy. Yeah. The twist was that he's spoiler alert, he's not a douchebag. You're like,
oh, that's nice.
Yeah, okay. He's actually a good guy. Yeah.
He seems like such a nice guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Alien, nominated for an Academy Award for Best Set Decoration and Art Direction, and won an Academy Award for Best Visual Effects. The Academy said, but not for the head on the table and not for the end.
Honestly.
Aliens, nominated for Academy Awards for Best Lead Actress for Sigourney Weaver, Best Art Direction and Set Decoration, Best Film Editing, Best Original Score, and Best Sound. And it won Academy Awards for Best Visual Effects and Best Sound Effect Editing.
We didn't talk at all about the music in either of these movies, and I don't think it's the same person. I'm a terrible person for not remembering.
Between the two movies?
It's Jerry Goldsmith in the second one.
Jerry
right?
Goldsmith is the first. James Horner is the
second.
Okay,
I was gonna mix those up, but either way, both amazing composers. I would say that the first one, you barely notice the music. It's barely there. It's supposed to be very creepy in that way. And then the second one is all about the music. Like the music almost never stops. All the snare drum stuff going on with the military vehicle is driving through. I think my least favorite part, I'm just going to keep this quick, but my least favorite part about the music in the second one is that unlike the first one where when the alien is coming up and going to murder somebody, there's either no music or it's very minimal and very creepy and very like gets under your skin, versus in Aliens, here comes an alien, the trumpets.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, yeah, I know it's the alien. Like, it's okay.
Yes, I agree.
Apparently, I've also seen that James Horner, who did the music for the second one, was apparently under like a huge time crunch and sort of just like reused what he had done for a Star Trek movie he made.
Yes. Yeah. Especially the very end with the nuclear bum 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 bum. Like that's all that I'm pretty sure that is from like Star Trek 5 or 6 or something. Yeah, wow. It's like exactly the same thing.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay. Where was I? Let's get to some numbers. Alien had a budget of $11 million and grossed $106 million worldwide.
Damn.
Aliens, budget of $18.5 million, grossed $131 million worldwide. Like, the movies are very similar in the successes where they were.
Yeah.
The critics' consensus for Alien, a modern classic, Alien blends science fiction, horror, and bleak poetry into a seamless whole. Aliens.
Okay.
While Alien was a marvel of slow building, atmospheric tension, Aliens packs a much more visceral punch and features a typically strong performance from Sigourney Weaver.
Typical of because of these movies.
Yeah.
And then I cut down the number of reviews I have. So for Alien, Roger Ebert gave it 4 stars. Ridley Scott's 1979 movie is a great original. For Aliens, Roger Ebert gave it 3.5 stars. The ads for Aliens claims that this movie will frighten you as few movies have, and for once, the ads don't lie.
Wow.
For Alien, Dave Kerr, an empty-headed horror movie with nothing to recommend it beyond the disco-inspired art direction and some handsome, if gimmicky, cinematography. Which, just surprised to see such
handsome, if
review.
gimmicky is how I describe myself often, I think. So.
And Gene Siskel on Aliens, count me out of the fan club for this one.
Ooh, okay. But hey, both of them liked Batman Mask of the Phantasm, so that's all that matters.
Yes, they did.
Well, I know that we're past the opinions. I wanted to toss in that like I was just listening. I'm only like halfway through your Lovely Bones episode, but I had a very similar experience in that I watched that in I think it was my very first film class where I remember it being pretty good, and then watched it again later and like, oh, this isn't very good, kind of a thing like you guys had. And I think that a lot of my joy from both of these Alien movies comes from seeing them as a kid and being scared shitless, and then getting more and more interested in the lore of this universe and what comes next and how it all intertwines and who is the company and what does everyone, all this stuff. And just in watching these a dozen, several dozen times each since, and that being like part of my, I don't know, being at this point. Like I have an Alien Queen pop figure right next to me off screen. There's no, which means nothing because everyone has pop figures of everything. But there's a definite. I can understand people watching these as adults and just going like, I don't see what the big deal is to a certain extent. But I'm very glad that Gab, I know we haven't gotten to the verdict, but it seems that she has enjoyed both of these for the most part, and it makes me happy. So.
We'll see, I guess.
I have to mention, Gab and Corey's cat Sally is desperately trying to get onto the laptop. It's like, we have to talk about Jonesy.
Jonesy was James, great. We haven't gotten to this part yet. Yeah.
She wants to press the button so bad.
Yeah.
All right. Do we want to hear some fun facts?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay.
But if they're not fun, I quit.
Everything's fun about xenomorphs.
These fun facts are specifically for Alien. It was the concept artist Ron Cobb who came up with the idea that the alien should bleed acid. This came about when writer Dan O'Bannon ran into a wall with the screenplay and how to handle the last half of the movie because he had no reason for why the crew members don't just shoot this thing and kill it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Which I do love in the second one. Once they have guns, they're like, we're gonna shoot the fuck out of this thing, and like several people are like,
yeah. That guy that gets two-faced and they're just leave him, he's gone, or like there's no way, and
she's like, he could still get on the ship, but it's like, I don't think so. To get Jones the cat to react fearfully to the alien, a German Shepherd was placed in front of Jones. Oh, it says placed in front of him, so Jones was a boy cat. A screen was between the two so the cat wouldn't see it at first, and the screen was suddenly removed to make Jones stop advancing and start hissing.
Wow, poor German
I was
Shepherd.
wondering what they had to do to make that happen without like hurting the cat, so that's nice. Hurting it emotionally, but
yeah.
H.R. Geiger did the designs for the xenomorph and the creature itself.
Mm-hmm.
He at first, when he did the first illustration, had eyes on the alien, and then for the movie was like, no eyes, don't do it, that's a mistake.
Yeah. There's like
it would look way worse with eyes.
Yeah,
I think it's like a what do you call it when you do like a mold or whatever of a human skull as the base
underneath
of the and then there are like two shots in the movie where there's like a light behind the alien enough where if you look really closely you can kind of see like the sockets of where the eyes would be, but it's in darkness so often that you don't see that. And then every alien movie since has just done away with that completely. Like it's a black dome. There's no eyes.
Yeah, I don't feel like you can see that at all anyway. The dead face hugger that Ash autopsies was made using fresh shellfish, 4 oysters, and a sheep kidney. Filming had to be done quickly because it would go bad very fast under studio lights.
Ew.
Yeah, disgusting looking.
That sounds gross.
Yeah.
Ridley Scott answering anyone who might question why Ripley goes back for Jones. Would I go back for my dogs? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ridley
I
Scott
agree.
gets it.
Right, Sally? You dumb bitch.
Oh my god.
You bitch.
You bitch.
I don't know, Sally. I'm sorry.
This is a piece of Ridley Scott commentary from the quadrilogy box set on Sigourney Weaver. Sigourney refused to pull up her panties and shave at all. We had to pay someone in 1979 something like $5,000 to airbrush out all her minge hair on every single cell of film. It took weeks.
Oh my god.
Wow. All right.
Which I will say, I haven't seen that back before I watched the movie. It made me pay an uncomfortable amount of attention to Sigourney Weaver's crotch. Like, can I see where they airbrushed? And I was like, no, not really.
Well, now I'm going to be, trying to,
Wow.
I mean, I did think in that moment that was the only, because we're talking about the like, oh, this was written for anybody and you didn't have to be a woman and all this stuff. That was the only part that stuck out to me as like, oh, we had to put her in her underwear in the movie somewhere. Like, was this really necessary?
I agree. I was expecting her to take her top off. I was like, oh, here come the unsolicited tits.
Yep.
Well, there is a version of the movie, and there was a written scene that they talked about doing, I guess, where Ripley was going to be stark naked for the fight against the xenomorph at the end. And the xenomorph would have a sexual attraction to her.
Shut up.
See, Gab, there were so many worse versions of the end of this movie.
Yeah, like, it feels like somebody was like, hey, you know what if we did that? And the rest of the room was like, why? Why
there's just one
that?
guy in the corner. What if the alien fucked the lady? I don't think so. Oh, okay, well, that's fine. What about in this scene if the alien fucked the lady?
Well, somebody got that by the time they get to like Alien 3 was like, can the alien fuck the lady in this one? They're like, fine. Fine.
Right.
Guys, listen. If the alien fucks the lady,
Yeah,
we'll sell
we're gonna
one
make so
ticket.
much money. Yeah.
We got some aliens facts now. In the original script, and they did shoot this and delete the scene, when Ripley is rescuing Newt, she encounters Burke cocooned. He claims that he can feel the chest burster inside him and asks for help, and Ripley gives him a grenade to blow himself up with and moves on.
That's in the second one, yeah.
Yes.
There's scenes in both that are deleted, yeah, where she finds someone cocooned and says, sorry, bye.
Yeah, we totally don't need that. I'm very happy with like the end of
Yeah,
Burke. We just
yeah.
see him like face to face with an alien and it's
Yes.
like, oh, fuck,
Yeah.
he's done.
Yeah.
Satisfying, yeah.
So, Bishop, when he's doing the knife trick in the beginning of the movie, Lance Henriksen is actually moving a knife between his and Bill Paxton's hands, but the footage is sped up. So if you look at the shots where you can
Obviously.
see everyone else, you can see their heads moving like super fast and things like that.
Yeah.
I did
I
think
think
that
that's poorly done.
Yeah, that was a little weird. I mean, I don't know how else you would have done it at that time, but the shots of Bill Paxton going like are just so clearly like being fast forwarded with him saying ADRing the line over the top. That was just like,
Yes.
Yeah,
like you could have at least
thought about it until I read this fact, and then when you go back and watch it in the wide shots, you're looking at everyone else.
Yeah.
But I think normally the shots do a great job focusing you on the hand and on the knife, that you're not noticing it as much. But if you guys
Yeah.
both noticed it like very bluntly, then yeah, not good.
Oh,
enough.
I noticed it. I noticed it even in the shot of the knife where it was like regular speed and then a little faster and then like da, 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 da. It was like it just looks sped up. It doesn't look like he's moving faster. It looks like the same tempo played faster.
This is from an interview in 1986, Sigourney Weaver on the possibility of an Alien 3. It took someone as talented and crazy as Jim Cameron to come up with a story that was as good as the first one. I'd be surprised if it could happen again. I have a feeling if it happened again, that Newt would have grown up, the little girl, and that she would be the one to go off and carry the gun through space. And when Alien 3 did come out, they said, fuck that.
Yeah.
Is it Sigourney Weaver again in the third?
It is Sigourney Weaver
she's
again
in all
the third
the
and
first,
the
fourth. Yeah.
Wow.
And
See, that's what
Alien
I'm saying. This
3
is the highlight of her career.
Yeah.
Well, she made a lot of money from these. That's the only reason she kept coming back is because they were like, want a bunch more money.
Notably, it was a long time between the third and fourth one, and she was very like, I really don't want to do this. Like they're getting worse every time, and blah blah blah, and I think it was probably a Harrison Ford style. Well, what if we give you $1 billion? She's like, all right, fine, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But,
I think even to come back for Aliens, she was paid $1 million, which was like the highest salary a woman had ever gotten for a movie. I think.
Half those people in the first one got like
she got $35,000 for the first
one. Tens of thousands at most or something. Or just, you're looking back at that and you're like, holy crap, yeah.
Yeah.
James Cameron is the first voice we hear in Aliens. Going bio readouts are in the green. Looks like she's alive. The alien queen was a puppet that took 14 to 16 people to operate.
Yep.
It is all over Lance Henriksen is milk and yogurt after he has spittled up, which apparently stank and no one wanted to be near him. And he never complained about.
Lance, can you just lie halfway in the floor with a bunch of yogurt on you for 7 hours? Yeah.
Carrie Henn, who played Newt, is a teacher today for 4th grade.
Yeah, I think this is her only acting credit or something. Yeah.
Sure is. And the last one, which was like sort of a rumor that I'd always heard that I was able to find James Cameron actually saying. I had lunch with a big shot producer when I was about to start Aliens who said, it's a no-win for you. If the movie's good, Ridley Scott will get the credit. If it's bad, it's all you. It's a career ender. I said, yeah, but I like it. I was maybe a dumbass fanboy, but I could see it so clearly in my head that I just had to go make it. And yes, it's true. I was in a meeting with the studio head and executive producers. I turned my script over, and on the blank side of the last page, I wrote Alien. Then I drew an S on the end. Then I drew 2 vertical lines through the S and held it up to show them. Like, that is such an iconic story that I feel like I've heard a billion times of him just being like, Alien, money sign.
Yeah.
They're like,
well, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. That's great.
Now that you've made it through all my facts, before you get to hear James's verdict, Gab's verdict, or my verdict, you got to hear some fucking mail.
You do. Now, James, shut up and don't say anything until we're done with the mail section.
Quiet. Don't even try it.
Shut up.
Mail time! When you control the mail, you control information.
Mom asked me to ask you if there's any mail for us here by mistake.
What?
First, we have a comment for Scotty Cameron on The Jerk. Funny thing about Renfield is that I saw the DVD of the movie at Barnes & Noble the other day, and I thought, oh yeah, I've been meaning to watch that. I didn't buy it because I at least want to see a movie before owning the physical copy. Instead, I bought Snowden and White Pony by Deftones. I know what Snowden is. I don't know the latter.
I continue to find it hilarious that Scotty Cameron listens to our podcast as if it's a conversation between the three of us and just like writes in like, oh, I've been meaning to, you know what I mean? Like I am not being facetious. I love it.
I love it because I know I do that same shit on some podcasts too, where like as I'm listening, I'm like, let me jot this down so I can write in a comment.
Right.
It's
too good.
What was I gonna say? Renfield is the same thing where like if I'm on Peacock once in a while, which is rare because it's Peacock and there's really not that much to get me over there, but I will see Renfield and I'm like, oh yeah, we were gonna watch that, and then I click away.
Yeah. Is The Office on Peacock?
It is.
Okay, so you're gonna have to give me your Peacock login because I can't watch The Office and it is ruining my life.
See, you say that. I think Peacock ruined my Office life because I gotta tell you, Giselle and I used to go to sleep watching The Office. We used to eat, breathe The Office, and once they dragged onto Peacock, it really. One, we didn't have Peacock for a long time, so it was just like they let it drain out of us, and then they were like, "You want more, right?" And I'm like, "No, you convinced me away from it. Look what you've done."
Here's the other thing that kills me. I don't want to have to choose what episode to watch. I want it to like be on shuffle, like a la Comedy Central.
Sort of like if you just turn on cable.
Yeah, but I don't want to pay for cable. I pay for too many other things.
At some point, these streaming services are going to start to break down, and we're just going to have like basically cable providers where it's just like Netflix and Hulu are joined into, well, probably not them because they're juggernauts, but Netflix, Peacock, and Paramount Plus are all one thing that you can pay $60 a month for now. And it's like, I basically have cable now.
Yeah. I miss cable. I genuinely miss cable. I had YouTube TV for a little while. That was cool. But it's very expensive. And again, it's just cable. Whereas like you still need Netflix and Hulu and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I really want to watch The Office. Also, R.I.P. Matthew Perry.
Yeah. I'm not a big Friends guy, but still very sad. He was very young.
He was so young. He was my favorite on Friends. I do love Friends, not as much as I love The Office. Like I don't feel the need to watch it the way that I feel the need to watch The Office. But like the other day I went on YouTube and I turned on Jim proposing to Pam and I was like, it was like straight to the vein. You know what I mean?
I feel like I see random Office clips all the time and I just cannot believe how great that show is. Friends never really does it for me. Like I feel like for Zach, that's his version of The Office because he doesn't get The Office at all. And anytime I scroll like through reels and I see that clip of Michael Scott going, and then she ate yo ho, no, and he's like so serious and emotional about it, gets me every time.
It's so good. Zach doesn't get The Office?
No, it does nothing for him.
That's shocking to me because I feel like it's that sense of humor is like right up his alley.
Yeah, I feel like he likes Parks and Rec more, if anything, and he hasn't really watched that either.
Yeah, I like Parks and Rec. I'm okay with Parks and Rec. I think I like, for me, it goes The Office, then 30 Rock, then Parks and Rec.
Oh, of those three, 30 Rock is like way at the bottom for me. Not that I like actively dislike it. I just never, I watched a lot of it and I just wasn't like huge into it.
Yeah. I really, really, really love Tracy Morgan. I think he just steals the show.
He does nothing for me.
Wow.
Which obviously explains my 30 Rock feelings because each time Tracy Morgan is on the screen, I'm like, ah.
Wow. I can understand somebody being like, he's the same every time because he kind of is. Do you ever watch The Last OG? Probably not if you don't like him. Okay.
I don't actively seek out Tracy Morgan.
Yeah, that's okay. Very interesting. The cat is on the fucking counter. Sally! Sorry.
Is the cat not allowed on the counter?
You know, I don't know. I mean, I feel like the cat, here's the problem. The cat is not, we never made it a rule that the cat's not allowed on the counter, but the cat started going on the counter without asking for permission. And I think that's where I get upset.
Did she ever ask permission?
No, she didn't. And she she'll get into bed and her undercarriage is wet. And we're like, why the fuck are you wet? And it's because she went in the sink.
I've never heard someone describe a part of a cat as the undercarriage.
It's the undercarriage.
Have you checked your cat's transmission?
She did. Might be the carburetor.
Listen, the water pump is going on this cat. You got too many miles on it.
Honestly,
you can replace it now. Wait for it to break down, but it's gonna be a mess if you wait.
The head gasket on this cat is just waiting to blow.
It's just made me think of our old cat Possum, who I don't know if I've told the story before, was actively peeing on my mom in bed every night, and my mom was going to put down the cat, and the cat was like, "So I'll stop."
Cat was like, "Heard, done.
Fix that water pump right up. Got the oil change, good to go."
Yep, I had a couple more miles on it. Oh shit. Yeah. Anyway, Scotty Cameron.
Yes, let's move on to the next Scotty Cameron comment. Even better than Scotty having a conversation with us is when he gives us time codes and thinks we don't remember what we said
and are not gonna look back at.
Let's see if I remember what I said. 35 minutes and 44 seconds of the jerk. In fairness, I was just concurring with Dylan, saying I don't want the gossip, quote, shoved down my throat, and that it is much worse living in the heart of the Chiefs' kingdom. Oh, I guess this is about Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
It's a habit I have to express agreement on a topic, no matter how small the subject is, in the grand scheme of things. To quote the Dutch businessman from Hostel, it's in my nature. I mean, you didn't really need to quote somebody to just say it's in your nature.
Yeah.
to quote the band, yes. This music or genre of film isn't for me idea is something I wish I could grasp, was something I wish I understood in my teen years, because I remember one of my unhinged social media rants from high school was about the music I noticed other Facebook friends listening to on Spotify. The joys of using Facebook since 6th grade. 38 minutes and 57 seconds. I was using friend more colloquially to mean acquaintance. I guess this is about the person you follow, how they were unhinged.
Yeah. By the way, I did send Dylan an example of them being unhinged. And Dylan, what was the verdict?
It was pretty unhinged. It was a bit unhinged. They were going off.
It is unhinged as fuck. And I love it.
I appreciate the popping off. Yes. It's fun to watch other people be unhinged.
Oh, yeah.
I will say, Scotty, I was just like you two. I was on Facebook in 12th grade or on MySpace, and I guess I was less unhinged online and more unhinged actively at people in real life, being like, how could you listen to that? You're so uncool. You know what sucks? Fall Out Boy. I probably said that to Gab at some point when we were kids. Like, you listen to Fall Out Boy? Fall Out Boy's so dumb. You should listen to the Rolling Stones. Like,
that is a direct quote, and I can recall being in the playroom and you saying that.
Yeah.
No question.
I'm better now than I was then.
I believe, wasn't your favorite Rolling Stones song Paint It Black?
It still is. Still is in my emo heart.
I have actually played, when I used to work for Cycle Bar, I used to play a cover of that song by Sierra.
Like Russell Wilson Sierra?
I don't know. Like my goodies, not my goodies.
Okay.
Yeah.
You more famously know her for music. I'm like, married to a football player, Sierra?
Oh, I didn't know she was married to a football player.
Yeah.
Yeah. She has this unbelievable, like very powerful cover of Paint It Black. I cannot recommend it enough. Give it a listen.
You have to send this to me. I will not actively remember this.
Okay, I'll send it to you. I'm going to send it to you right fucking now. If I text it to you right now, do you promise not to open it?
Yes. Why would I open it right now? We're recording now.
True. Okay. You were busy. Anyway, Go on.
And we got one more comment from Scotty Cameron, who thank goodness is having a conversation with us because no one else is. Where are y'all at?
Honestly.
Scotty Cameron said, the Alien franchise is one of my favorite horror movie franchises. Ridley Scott's Alien and James Cameron's Aliens are two of the best sci-fi horror movies of all time, and I'm glad that James Strecker from the Watchtower database is coming on to discuss them. I'm not just saying that because the last names of the directors of the double feature are Scott and Cameron. Oh my God.
Wow.
I did not connect that.
Me neither.
No relation. To fulfill my Saw reference or mention quota for Jamie, I will just say I recently watched Saw X and I loved it. I'd highly recommend, especially to anyone who has seen the Saw movies. See, I didn't reference Hostel to avoid referencing Saw or a misdirect from Saw. I will also recommend a movie I randomly watched over the weekend. It wasn't like great or mind-blowing, but it was a lot of fun. Totally Killer on Prime Video.
Okay.
Yeah, she goes back in time to stop these murders that happened 30 years ago and her mom from getting murdered 35 years later. It's kind of cool.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it a movie to watch before you die?
I wouldn't recommend it now if I was like, I should bring it on the podcast. It was so good. Like it was very solid. I thought about it. I did a little bit, like, but it's not that good. The reason, like, literally, she's like, her friend happens to be working on a time machine so she can go back in time. I was like, well, that's really stupid. But the rest of this movie is a lot of fun. So I gave it a pass for funness, not for movie to watch before you die.
Okay, that's fair. You got to have those every so often.
Now let's find out if these two movies are a movie to watch before you die. How about that?
All right, that's fine. James, you can remove the duct tape from your mouth.
Do or do not. There is no try.
The guilty will be punished.
Sentence is death.
James, you're the guest, so I feel like he should go first, right?
Let's go, James. Yeah, I'm going last.
So what am I supposed to say here?
Well,
whether I think it's a movie to watch before you die?
Not a movie to watch before you die, and I feel like
I'm gonna say yes to both, but for very different reasons. Like I definitely think Alien is an iconic horror slasher thriller, whatever you want to call it, film that has done so much for that genre and for sci-fi and all sorts of stuff. That if you haven't seen it, it is a crime. Aliens, also another movie to watch before you die, but just because it's a hell of a lot of fun. I think there are so many. Bill Paxton has so many great lines in it that keep you kind of like lifted out of the funk a little bit. Like, you know, everyone's so depressed and worried and all this stuff, and then he'll be like, "We're gonna fucking die, man!" And you're like, "Okay, everything." You know, I can sympathize with that, and that's kind of funny, and I'm back in it and whatever. And it's just a very it's kind of a not guilty pleasure. I just enjoy watching it. But whereas Alien, I wouldn't just put on because oh yeah, I love this movie. I have to be in the right mindset and prepared for a 2.5 hour, whatever it is. Amount of time spent going, "Ooh, where's the thing? Oh God," or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think they're both very brilliant films in their own way, and that they both deserve to be seen by all.
Yeah.
The end.
Still.
Good closing statement. I will say, I think both are movies to watch before you die. So I think our first double feature is a rousing success. I would probably say they're both too good to be on this podcast, if not for James coming on specifically to talk.
Why?
I think they're both obvious to me.
Oh, sure.
I think they're obviously movies to watch before you die. The fact that Gab hasn't seen it also was oh, well, let's fucking do it anyway. Gab hasn't seen The Goonies, so I keep itching to be let's put that on the podcast.
Not a good movie. Anyway.
I'll say they're both movies to watch before you die, but I'm also going to say I think this is the very rare case where I think the sequel is even better than the original. And maybe it's just that I like that type of movie better, but I think from a practical effects standpoint, it's technically perfect, and it does the sequel thing of it. You can sometimes tear your hair out when you think of sequels just saying well, let's just do it bigger, do everything more.
Yeah.
Because sometimes that's a fucking mistake. And in this movie, it works. Every single thing works. Both are great though, but I will say I think the sequel is even better.
Well. I want to start by saying that
look at her, she's drunk on power right now.
I know, I really am.
I have the floor.
Now you listen to me. I think if it weren't for the thing, I think the thing walked so Alien could run. I'll say that to start out with. And I think if I hadn't had the experience that I had with the thing, poor Dylan getting red in the face, I may not have appreciated Alien as much as I did. However, I do think the thing that Alien did brilliantly was feature a monster that we could not get away from and that we couldn't really see very well up until, of course, that last scene where we saw way too much of it.
Yeah.
So for those reasons, I was very invested. I really enjoyed it. And I do think that that is a movie to watch before you die. Aliens, I appreciated immediately because it felt more like a modern movie. It felt like an action movie. It felt like it had a very clear trajectory. I trust James Cameron. I knew it was going to be exciting. However, I think if it didn't have the tie to Alien, if it were a standalone movie, I don't know that I would have liked it as much. I think it was a really good reboot of that character. I think it was a really good sort of chapter 2. I really loved, like I said earlier, that it picked right up where Alien left off. So it didn't feel how are we going to why all of a sudden are we revisiting this? But at the end of the movie, when we turned it off, I believe I said out loud, that was way more fun. So I appreciated them both for two very different reasons.
Yeah.
I will probably never watch either of them again, but I'll go ahead and say, yeah, all right, sure.
I had my hand hovering over the womp 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 button because I was thinking you weren't, because you're like, on the other hand, aliens also, yes.
Yeah.
Use that button. Let me just say Alien 3.
Oh, yeah. Well, Alien Resurrection, which is the fourth one, is a guilty pleasure movie of mine. It is not a good movie at all, but it is just I don't know, put on schlocky, stupid movie.
Yeah, everybody has them.
Did you like Hicks or Newt at all? And were you glad to see them survive the movie?
I didn't give a shit about Newt. I'm going to be totally honest with you. In fact, I was a little like, this kid is really fucked. Like by the end, when she fell through the thing and then she was under there and the alien was, I was like, this kid has just been nothing but fucking trouble. Like enough. I don't understand.
See, to her, she probably feels the same way about them. She's like, I was surviving fine when you fucker showed up.
Yeah. Yeah. And then who was the other person you were asking me about?
Hicks. Yeah.
Which one is Hicks?
Michael Biehn.
The father figure-ish nice soldier man.
The only other guy to survive.
Yes. Yeah. I liked him. He was handsome. He was brave.
Dylan is breathing in to tell you something. Like, I know exactly where he's going with this.
Alien 3, which is a horrendous sequel, immediately starts with them dead.
Yeah,
their sleep pods failed. They're dead.
Oh, that's mean.
There's like no reason for it. They're just like, we want Ripley back, but with no ties. They're gone. Get rid of them.
Yeah.
Oh, that's alarming. Very
real
sad.
bad, Gab. Don't watch any of the other Alien movies. Prometheus, I spent like 2 days researching. Like, no, the movie had to make sense. I'm just stupid.
No.
After 2 days, and Giselle being like, "Why are you doing this to yourself? You got to stop researching this movie. I'm begging you." I finally realized I was like, "She's right. I'm not dumb. The movie's dumb."
Well, congratulations, Dylan. I'm happy for you. Awesome. Well, yeah, you guys, I appreciate having been put in a position where I was able to watch these. Logistically, this double feature thing, I'm not sure we're ever going to do it again. But
no problem. I'm glad to create an issue for you.
I'm glad we did it for good
specialty.
Yeah, that was my weekend for sure, but not to my detriment. So thank you for that. Dill, tell the people where to find us.
Well, if you look in the link tree below in the description, you can find us there. But let's talk about where you can find James Stricker, who has the Jump on the Batwagon podcast on the Pod Tower YouTube channel, and on his other YouTube channel is
tubgirl.com. That's where
James, why don't you say where you're from? Because I can't say Utah.
Yeah, all right. I can't. Yeah, no. Watchtower Database on YouTube. That's our DC Animated Universe YouTube channel. I'm sure Gab will watch all the videos. But it's youtube.com/Watchtower Database. Yes, the Jump on the Batwagon podcast, where I'm showing my buddy Brian the entire DCAU for the first time. It's a lot of fun because he is not really a big superhero fan. Like, he likes Marvel stuff more than DC, but he grew up with the X-Men cartoon and stuff. So me showing him a bunch of Batman and Superman stuff, it's very fun to pick apart the episodes and see what he, much like my experience, like watching, what did Gab think of Alien? I want to know what Gab thought of Alien. Is very similar to my experience with Brian every podcast. Like, did he like this one? Did he think it was stupid? He's pointing out stuff that I'd never noticed was stupid, and that is stupid, whatever. So
yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
I'm glad you have not gotten to a point with Brian like I have, where you show a thing you love and wait for it to be shot on.
Well, I'm expecting it at some point, because I mean, he did all the stuff that I've been like, this is the really good episode or the really good movie or whatever, he's agreed on, but I'm not looking forward to having some kind of like, Brian, oh God, no, how could you how could you think that, which is, I would say, while I'm sitting here promoting myself, I would say I really enjoy listening to this podcast, mostly because of that aspect between the two of you, where either like one of you will have this movie that means so much to you, and the other one is just like, how the fuck could you ever enjoy this movie? I did want to, at some point while I was here, and here we are at the end, but I wanted to mention my personal Cat in the Hat experience, which was we had in middle school, we had this thing called Yes Day, which was, if you got really good grades, then you got to go on some sort of cool field trip. And we for a while we were doing stuff like, go to the beach, or we were going to go to there's a museum in Portland that's like this really cool science museum and all this stuff. And all of the trips were like very exciting. And at some point, I think they realized this is really unfair to the like 5 students that don't get to go to this, because there's just like the weird, like quiet druggy kids that don't go on the Yes Day trip. And it's really like a bummer to just see them wandering the school. And looking back on it, yeah, that is a very strange choice to make or whatever. But I'm pretty sure the final Yes Day before they made that call to cut it was we went to go see The Cat in the Hat. And that was, I think, partially influenced by the fact that it was like a last second, we can't think of anything better to do, let's send them to The Cat in the Hat. I was just not having a good time. And and so whenever Gab was like, oh yeah, well, this is a wonderful movie, my friends and I quoted it all the time. And I was just like, oh no. But then that's like the best part, to just listen to you guys like argue about how could you possibly think this way or whatever. And I think for a while I was like, oh man, Gab, how can you have these opinions also? But then it came to a point where I'm like hoping that you have a to me bad opinion about something, so that Dylan can go like, what? How could and just hear Dylan get really upset about something. So.
Cat in the Hat is a hard one to hide my disdain for.
Yeah. You did a good job though. Thank you. I appreciate that. I feel like, in fairness, at the end of the day, it's entertainment, and we are out here entertaining people. And like, I never lie about my feelings on something, but I definitely will embellish. And if I can embellish and make Dylan upset, I've won 2 for 2.
Well, she wins often. I will
do
say I respect the hell out of the fact that Gab has suggested movies on here and has then been like, you know what? I was wrong.
Just kidding. Lovely Bones is bad, actually. Yeah.
Like the competitor to me will not be like I would have, if I nominated Lovely Bones, I would have done my best to be like, it is a movie to watch before you die. Mark Wahlberg is great.
Yeah.
I would have tried so hard.
Yeah. Listen, you got to know when to hold them. You got to know when to fold them, right?
Damn straight.
Yeah. All right. Well, James, thank you so much for coming on. This has been
thank
awesome.
You for having me.
Our one and only double feature. And I believe next week we've got another exciting episode coming out too. So stay tuned.
Ooh, I will.
Thank you.
This is clearly an important species we're dealing with, and I don't think that you or I or anybody has the right to arbitrarily exterminate them.
Come on.
Yeah, watch us.
Hey, maybe you haven't been keeping up on current events, but we just got our asses kicked, pal.